Jalpa Bhavsar, thanks very much for joining us on MySecurityTV and welcome to Cybersecurity Asia. Is this your first Cybersecurity Asia conference?
It is. Thank you for having me, and it's a pleasure to be here. It is my first time and I'm loving it so far.
Now you just presented, literally you've just walked out of the room presenting on the role of the CISO and the SOC options that, on-prem, in the cloud and hybrid. How do you see the role of CISO and what's your sort of key message for the audience today?
Thank you. That's a great question, Chris. And I think the role of CISO has been evolving. And today, CISOs are not expected to be like hands-on technical person who just directs the team to do like what they need to do and work on incidents and things like that. But the role of CISO has now become that they are advocate of their security teams. They go out and get the requirements from the organization, what is important for the business, what are the key risks, communicate back to them, and also get the budget and the support that the security teams require.
Well, one of the sort of quotes that came out, I think it was yesterday on one of the panels, was sometimes the CISO is seen as the blame person, particularly after a breach. What are your thoughts on that, particularly given Australia's significant breaches? Is it the CISO that's left holding the bag at the end of the day?
Sadly, it has become that in some security incidents that we have seen unfolding on global landscape. But in my opinion, it shouldn't be that way because security, like CISOs, are not ultimately responsible for security. Board and executives are ultimately responsible for security of an organization. So it should not come down to just the CISO. They are there to do their job. They are responsible to implement the strategy which is put in place and make sure there are controls in place for the organization and to protect the people, infrastructure and assets.
Yeah. Well, one of the things you did talk about is the technology and the people. How do you create that link? Again, we've heard some technical presentations today and yesterday's on API security and the vulnerabilities that API sort of platforms have. How do you link that back to a board who some board directors might not even understand what an API is? How do you create that, either the linkage between risk and accountability for the board and the executives?
Yeah, that's a tricky one, and that balance of getting the technology teams understand the technology, but then using different language on different levels. So what works for technology team is that technical language, what controls we need to put in place, things like that. But when you're talking to board and executives, we need to change the language and talk in a language that is understood by them. So they understand business. They are there to take care of the business, increase their revenue, customer base, or depending on what the industry is. So depending on who you're talking to, like board, we need to change that language and make sure that we communicate what are the risks to the business and why do they need to be taken care of. Otherwise there will be direct business impact. And when they will see that direct linkage between putting a technological control which is going to help them with their business need, I don't think they're going to say that we can't give you this budget or the support.
One of the things, we were on a panel together yesterday, we talked about covering your backside in that context, right? Mm-hmm. What were some of the thoughts that you had around that? Things like auditing as one example, but yeah, just how, from a CISO's perspective, they can ensure that they're covered. Even though they might be communicating the risk, the organisation doesn't necessarily have to progress with that. They might accept that risk. How does a CISO sort of cover themselves in that respect?
So again, reiterating the point that the ultimate accountability for risk sits with the board. So CISO is there to communicate the risks and to get that support. But if there is not the support or the communication happening on the level that is needed, then at the end of the day, the board needs to accept the risk and accept that the incident is not only going to happen if, but when it happens, that it is going to hit hard.
So it shouldn't be a surprise for them if there is a significant incident. Now, last night, what's some of the takeaways for you at this conference? We had our Women in Security dinner last night, so thank you for joining that. But yeah, your general feel for this particular conference and your first time here in KL for Cybersecurity Asia?
No, it's been a great conference, and then thanks for having me again. And some of the key takeaways are, in terms of that mix of technical and non-technical conversations we need to have in organization. It's not about, security is not a technological problem, it's a people problem.
Yeah.
And that's how we need to deal with it. Like the top-down approach, I have seen time and again the presentations, they were good that they were not all just technical, but they also communicated what is important to the business, and that language that we need to start using to improve the posture of cybersecurity. And even the security women in security dinner last night, it was great to meet with some exceptional women in the industry and to get inspired by them. And one of them I was just talking to, and it was so inspirational that she mentioned that we need to reach to a point where we're not having women in something like security or IT or whatever it is. It should just be a norm. But this is a great step that we are taking now to get to that stage. And I really appreciate you, putting effort in that direction.
Well, I've got to say the diversity at this particular conference has been great. Diversity of all, it's even different nations and the like here in Southeast Asia. So it was great. And even last night, again, a lot of representation from quite a diverse group.
Absolutely. And one more thing is that anything for women in security or women in anything, they can't do it alone. And we need that allyship from our male counterparts. And I saw that last night. There were like equal amount of male turning up and supporting women, so that was great to see.
Beautiful. Jalpa, thanks so much, and safe travels home to Australia. You're based in Melbourne, so safe travels back to Melbourne, and enjoy the rest of your time here in Malaysia.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.